Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Imagine you're just casually scrolling through social media and you come across an everyday, totally ordinary user. Her name is Christine and she runs an account called Best Life Thrift. She's posting very mundane, run of the mill content, venting about her financial issues, reviewing random products, asking for advice on how to adult. It's a digital footprint that literally millions of Americans have. But what if I told you that this completely average account was actually a vital front for one of the most bizarre and dangerous true crime mysteries of the modern digital age? The story of the North Korean internet is so much deeper, weirder, and honestly far more connected to your daily life than you could ever imagine.
So what does this all mean? How does a totally mundane TikToker end up helping fund ballistic missiles? The sheer unbelievable contrast here is that by the summer of 2024, Christine's online presence just abruptly stopped. Now, you might assume she fell victim to a real-world crime or just, lost her internet access. But the truth? Christine Chapman was actually sentenced to a decade behind bars. Why? For personally acting as a U.S. liaison and helping to raise tens of millions of dollars to fund the North Korean military's ballistic weapons program. I know, no way, right? This ordinary woman, literally just complaining about bills on the internet, had essentially become a crucial asset for a massive foreign military-industrial complex.
Now, you might be wondering how this actually happens. Well, enter Room 39. This is a highly secretive branch of the North Korean government. Their entire purpose, the whole shebang, is to funnel foreign money into the country through illicit means. We're talking everything from international insurance fraud to large-scale cybercrime. And during the massive boom of work-from-home software engineering jobs back in 2020, investigators realized they had an incredibly devious idea. What if they could get North Korean workers to fill these cozy, well-compensated American tech jobs, pose as U.S. citizens, and funnel those massive salaries straight back to the regime?
Here's the step-by-step of how they actually managed to pull this off, and this brilliantly illustrates how easily the U.S. job market was compromised. First, they applied to these software companies using stolen American identities. But obviously, companies need to send you a physical work laptop, right? That is where American liaisons like Christine came in. She was hired under the guise of an IT administrative job. Laptops would arrive at her house, she'd power them on, and install remote access software. Then, the North Korean operatives would remotely log in from literally halfway across the world. They'd pass video interviews using deepfake technology, AI chatbots, or just really heavily rehearsed scripts. Once hired, they simply did the job. They collected massive US salaries while simultaneously stealing source code and installing crypto mining software on company networks. Let's look at the staggering scale of this. An estimated $1 billion. To put that into perspective, that is the potential annual revenue for Room 39's remote worker scheme. A single worker could pull in top salaries of up to $200,000 a year. And where does all this money go? Straight to the North Korean military's munitions department to build ballistic missiles. And what you really should take away from this is that it wasn't just Christine. Other facilitators across the U.S. were caught running the exact same laptop farms. The infiltration of the global job market was absolutely massive. Section 1. The domestic web. Let's zoom out a bit and see what internet access actually looks like for everyday citizens inside the DPRK. When we compare the internet as we know it to North Korea's version, the difference is just night and day. While we have the global World Wide Web with billions of interconnected sites and limitless access, North Korea has something called Kwangmyong. Only about half of the overall population even has a state-approved device capable of access. And even if they do, Kwangmyong is completely disconnected from the outside world. It hosts just a few thousand websites, all ending in a .kp suffix, and they are entirely monitored and run by the government. And, the sites themselves are incredibly surreal. It's almost like a digital ghost town. Look at these bizarre examples that have been mirrored to the global internet. You have Air Koryo, the national airline, where almost every link leads to a totally blank page. You literally can't even book a flight. Then there's Tourism DPRK, which features entirely unclickable text and uses its own native video players to perfectly align with the state policy of total self-reliance. But the strangest one for sure has to be menmolsong.kp. It looks like an e-commerce marketplace filled with North Korean products, but you can't actually buy a single thing. It exists purely as digital propaganda to feign the image of a prosperous society producing endless goods.
Section 2. The Global Manipulation Machine. Now, out of millions of citizens, only a tiny, highly vetted group of around 10,000 loyal military and government elites are allowed full access to the global internet. And incredibly, by the end of 2017, the North Korean government had 7,000 people working full-time just to spread propaganda online.
Operating out of the So-Gwang Media Corporation in Pyongyang, these state-sponsored workers run social media accounts posing as regular, everyday people, accounts with names like Cold Noodle Fan or Echo of Truth. Their goal is purely to manipulate the Western world into seeing a sterilized, utopian image of the DPRK.
But it gets way darker than just some fake Twitter accounts. Listen to this quote from Song A, a North Korean child influencer whose videos were actually showing up on YouTube Kids. Imagine leaving your tablet with your child, and they are suddenly watching carefully scripted North Korean state propaganda. There is something deeply off-putting and eerie about Song A's coached mannerisms as she tries to convince Western kids that North Korea is this magical land filled with amusement parks and candy. It's literal psychological manipulation aimed at the absolute most vulnerable.
Section 3. The Threat and the Truth. Okay, let's escalate the stakes a bit and trace the timeline of one of the most destructive digital events in history. Back in 2011, the American NSA developed a highly classified cyber exploit called Eternal Blue, which basically took advantage of a flaw in Windows. They kept it a secret weapon, but in 2016, a hacker group called the Shadow Brokers stole it. By that exact same year, North Korea's elite cybercrime unit, the Lazarus Group, acquired it. And on May 12, 2017, they unleashed WannaCry. This was a ransomware virus that automatically jumped from computer to computer, locking up entire systems and demanding Bitcoin to release the data.
The damage was, frankly, apocalyptic. WannaCry infected 250,000 computers across 150 countries in a single day. The estimated global economic damage, an astonishing $8 billion. It was so severe that it brought the UK's National Health Service to a complete standstill, locking doctors out of patient records, freezing MRI machines, and forcing the cancellation of over 19,000 medical appointments. A young security researcher named Marcus Hutchins ultimately found a hidden kill switch to stop it, but the devastation caused by the North Korean regime was already historic. So after exploring these massive global threats, we have to pivot sharply back to the physical reality inside the country. How do we know what is actually happening beyond the missile tests and the cyber attacks? The answer lies in a project called Rimjin-gang. Initiated by Japanese journalist Ishimaru Jiro, this project relies on a brave network of undercover North Korean journalists. They use tiny, hidden cameras to film everyday life, and then literally smuggle the footage out of the country on USB drives, hidden inside shipments of bootleg media. This is really the only way we get to see the unvarnished truth. And the truth is a stark juxtaposition to the regime's polished lies. On one side, state propaganda pushes videos of bustling supermarkets with fully stocked shelves, though the smuggled reporters actually confirm those goods are purely for show and nothing is ever actually for sale. On the other side, the smuggled reality reveals the true local economy, impoverished, unapproved dirt markets where unkempt children sell scraps of food. Disturbingly, footage from these exact same desperate markets in 1998 and 2013 shows a society entirely frozen in time, struggling with severe, ongoing food insecurity. The Rimjin-gang footage also captures the grim reality of forced manual labor. Regular citizens are routinely mobilized, without pay, to work on super dangerous state projects. When an expert analyzed smuggled footage of a newly built apartment complex, they noted the structural integrity was terrifyingly poor. They stated it resembled construction from, actually scratch that, it's more like how buildings were constructed a full century ago and had a lifespan of barely a decade. It's a really sobering, impartial report of the sheer physical exhaustion and danger facing everyday citizens underneath the facade of a prosperous state. Section 4. Finding the real people. You know, it is so easy to get lost in the terrifying mechanics of hackers, missiles, and propaganda bots, but we have to ground this in humanity. Back in 2008, French photographer Eric Laforgue visited North Korea and brought a Polaroid camera. Now, many locals had never even seen an instant print camera before. He offered to take their photos, giving one copy to the subject and keeping one for himself. These simple, spontaneous Polaroids are profoundly moving. For the first time, we aren't seeing military parades or rehearsed propaganda. We're seeing regular people, acting naturally, smiling, posing, existing as individuals separate from the state's controlled image. It's a beautiful reminder that this country is full of people who sleep, eat, get married, and simply try to survive. And that brings us to our final thought. As we look at the immense cyber destruction, the sophisticated remote work scams, and the chilling child propaganda, we're really forced to ask this critical question. Behind all of that, how do we separate the undeniable cruelty of the regime from the 26 million regular human beings trapped inside its machine? They aren't just brainwashed robots. They are people caught in an unimaginable system.
I'll leave you to reflect on that. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning what you see on the surface.